Hey guys, it's Mr. Murray. Here to talk to you a little bit today about greatest common factor. Greatest common factor is something we've been talking about for a while in class, and hopefully you guys are starting to understand it. It's a skill that you're going to use a lot as you move forward in your math classes. Especially as you're working with fractions, we use greatest common factor whenever we want to find, if I want to find the lowest term of fraction, simplify a fraction down to the easiest way to understand it. That is probably the number one way I can think of that I would share with you that we use greatest common factor. But to get to greatest common factor, there's several other things that we need, all these skills that we've been working on this year that we need to be able to do. Really have to have a solid understanding of multiplication and division. Need to know those divisibility rules that we've talked about. Divisibility rules make this a lot easier. Understand the difference between prime and composite numbers. Know what factors are and understand prime factorization. All of these things tie into greatest common factor, or GCF. Okay, well, GCF, I'm just going to cut right to it. The greatest common factor is the largest number that I can find that goes into two other numbers. Okay, so if I'm working with the numbers 12 and 16, I list out, and I want just a real quick example here, 12 and 16. The factors for 12, the numbers that I can multiply to go into 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Okay, there's my factors for 12. My factors for 16, 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. So there's my factors. So if I want to go through, and I'm going to, and just what we talked about, the common factors are those factors that show up in both lists. So 1, 2, and 4 are my common factors. The biggest number, 4, is the greatest common factor. And that is one method that will work every time. And it's okay with small numbers, but once you start getting into big numbers, where you might have a lot more factors to try to list out, it gets a little confusing, a little difficult to understand. So, what do we do? What do we do when we have numbers that are a little bit bigger, might have more factors, and we want to figure out what that greatest common factor is? Well, instead of listing all the factors, we've been using in class what we call the cake method. And the cake method is really just a fancy way of saying dividing by the prime numbers, dividing by common factors. So we'll go through an example with some smaller numbers. Let's say that I ask you to find the greatest common factor for both take the word both out of there. Find the greatest common factor for 12 and 20. All right. That's what I'm asking you to do. So what I'll start with, guys, is I'll take my two numbers, the two products that I'm talking about, 12 and 20, and I'm going to put those inside a division bar. I'm going to do division. That's how I'm going to do this. But I'm not going to just randomly pick numbers and see if they work. I'm going to start with my divisibility rules, which I have listed over here on the wall, poster on the wall. Okay, and I'm going to start at the top. Okay, the first one says if the last digit is even, in other words, if it's a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0, it can be divided by 2. Well, our numbers over here, 12 and 20, both of them meet that criteria, so that's the first number that we're going to divide by is 2. So I'll put my 2 on the outside. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 20 divided by 2 is 10. And now I've done that part. Now I look at the numbers here and I say, wow, these are both even still. So I've got another layer to put on my cake. Okay? I look at these, they're both even, so I know that 2 works again. All right? 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 10 5 times. When I get here, 3 and 5 we know are both prime numbers. Nothing goes into those. We're done. So I'm going to go up the side of my cake here. The numbers that I circled, I'm going to multiply together, and that's going to give me my greatest common factor for 12 and 20. Oops. 2 times 2 equals 4. There we go. We found the greatest common factor. This was a relatively simple one. There weren't a lot of factors to try to figure out. Let's change the numbers, though. Let's see if we can't put some numbers in here that might give us a few more factors. For example, let's try 36 and 72. They're a little bit bigger. They're not humongous, but they're bigger. So first thing we'll do is we'll put 36 and 72 in the bottom layer of my cake. All right, and now I start with my divisibility rules, and I'll start with the rule for 2. Yep, and I see that both numbers end in an even number. Both digits are even, so I know that 2 is going to work there. So I divide them both by 2. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 72 divided by 2 is 36. Okay. I can see right away they're both even again. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to divide those by 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 36 divided by 2 is 18. Well, now they're not both even, so 2 is not going to work this time. But I'll go to my next divisibility rule, which is the rule for 3, which says the sum of if the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, then the number is divisible by 3. Well, 9 I already know is divisible by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. 18, I'm not so sure about maybe, but I add them together. 1 plus 8 equals 9. Well, 9 can be divided by 3. Well, that means that number can be divided by 3. So I'm going to put my next layer of my cake up there, and I'm going to divide both of these by 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. Well, 3 is prime, but it still has a factor that it shares with 6, so we're going to do one more layer, because I know that 3 goes into both of these. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. Nothing goes into both 1 and 2, so we are done. So I'll circle the numbers that go up the side of my cake. 2, 2, 3, 3. And I know that the GCF, greatest common factor, is going to equal 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, which we've talked about in class is the same as 2 to the second power times 3 to the second power. Okay, 2 to the second power is 4, 3 to the second power is 9. My greatest common factor is 36. Cake method, guys, if you use it every time, go through the same steps, same process, you've got a tool that's going to make the math easy. If you have any questions, you know where you can reach me. Have a great day.